Soon you'll be wearing my sword like a shish kebab. And welcome to Rubber Chicken with a podcast in the middle. A podcast dedicated entirely to the Monkey Island series of adventure games. In this episode, we're taking a look at some continuity issues surrounding the recent announcement of Return to Monkey Island.
Well, gee, I feel a little guilty now.
So, our plan originally was we did spin the Buccaneer last time and we landed on Chapter 2 or Part 2 of Curse of Monkey Island, The Curse Gets Worse, but we thought we'd take a little break from doing madly rotating Buccaneer episodes to just have a more general chat about what was going on in Monkey Island world and sort of our thoughts about a Monkey Island related topic so that we didn't, wear ourselves out on madly rotating Buccaneer content. So this week we thought we'd just talk about the idea of continuity in the Monkey Island series. Beforehand, was there any news, any little tweets or anything that you wanted to mention before we get into it?
There's nothing on my end.
Yeah, the only thing I saw was Dom Armado saying that he now knows what the secret of Monkey Island is.
Yeah, okay.
He posted, "I know the secret and you don't."
Okay.
And he said, "I figure I get to enjoy this from today until some speed demon finishes the game a few hours after release."
That's me.
And Ron Gilbert did joke that Guybrush saying what the secret of Monkey Island was the one line that they forgot to record.
Yeah, okay, sure it was.
When they were doing the dialogue.
I think this might just be all spin. I'm not sure that this is a thing. And if it is it kind of like this is the last entry in the Monkey Island series if all this has all been revealed?
Yeah, I mean, does he really...
Here's my thing about the secret of Monkey Island. It was my belief that originally the secret of Monkey Island just meant that Monkey Island was itself a secret because no one knew how to find it. Therefore, that was the meaning of the title, The Secret of Monkey Island. And I don't think it goes beyond that personally. I think it's retroactively become this thing, especially from Curse onwards. Oh, what's the secret of Monkey Island? Because that's become just an in-joke for the series. So I don't think I think this is a non-issue.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if there really is some supposed secret of Monkey Island revealed in the new game, and I think it's much more likely that, this is just a joke. But if there is a secret, I reckon it was that Monkey Island's just a video game and that he did it in Thimbleweed Park.
Yeah, okay. Well, that'll suck if it's true.
That's another thing that people have speculated upon. But anyway, we already had Thimbleweed Park, so we don't have to worry about them doing that again, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
And I guess we can also point out they announced that Ron mentioned they finished recording all the lines. So all the voice work is apparently done now.
Yeah. Elaine was the last person to do, as far as we know.
Yep, Elaine was the last character. Everything else is apparently done. And now it just remains to be seen if we're ever going to get any kind of further teaser content before presumably a release date gets announced. There's only half a year left, and apparently it is coming out this year. So
December 31st.
That's all we've got left to think about. Yeah,
I think
could be.
It's exciting me the amount of characters and dialogue they've apparently recorded. Makes me think this is like a kind of Curse of Monkey Island quality kind of experience. There's going to be that much content.
They said it was over 13,000 lines of dialogue, and I think Jonathan Ackley said that Curse has something like 8,000 and something lines.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this is potentially a pretty big game in terms of content. It was funny to see Ron Gilbert saying that Secret of Monkey Island back in 1990 or 89 took hours to compile, and that Return to Monkey Island takes 3 to 5 seconds to compile whenever they were running it. This just made me think about something in terms of the engine or the visuals. Is this going to be 3D models that look 2D-ish in a 3D environment that looks 2D-ish? Is
I think
something I'm
typically that's what
wondering
they
about.
do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think everyone who's saying that these are going to be like paper doll 2D models, I think it actually might be more sophisticated than
Yeah,
that.
okay.
But I don't know. The Thimbleweed engine, I guess, was a used 2D visuals, but I don't know if that means anything. I don't know enough about, or indeed anything about engines to know if that matters.
I feel like the current trend, I don't think it really matters about the engine, but it matters about what you want it to look like. That kind of Curse of Monkey Island, very traditional kind of Warner Brothers / classic Disney animations, a little on the out at the moment.
Yeah.
Especially because I see a lot of children's TV, so that kind of thing is kind of out, and the thing that's in is this kind of slightly more basic
Yeah.
kind of, puppets, kind of, as you say, paper puppets, kind of marionette style animation. Whether that's because it's easier or because that's the way they like things to look, I'm not sure. But yeah, that kind of, as I say, a classic kind of Disney animation, I feel like is not really popular at the moment. And I suppose it's just going to look like the trailer. I do notice that there has been less buzz around social media and things about what the game's going to look like. People have kind of stopped talking about that. And I wonder if that's worrying that we've had this trailer and everything, and now interest is slowly dwindled as we've had no further update. I don't think the website's even been updated, has it?
Not to my knowledge, and I was thinking about this today as well. When, if ever, does the marketing push happen for this game? Because if Lucasfilm wants to make money off this, I really don't think anyone is talking about this except for existing Monkey Island fans.
Absolutely. So I hang out with a few people who are big video game fans, and I've asked if they're at all interested in a new Monkey Island game. The answer has been a resounding no.
Yeah, I really don't know who, except for existing Monkey Island fans, would be interested in this.
No,
they would need to be pushing it pretty hard to generate interest. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm sure it probably doesn't matter to Ron Gilbert. He already got his budget and made his game.
Yep.
But it does lead me back to, I wonder what the incentive was on the part of Lucasfilm to do this, because
I'm happy for them to just make a game. I just don't really want it to be for the fans. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want this to be just made for nerdy Monkey Island fans. I want it to be made for people to be an enjoyable experience, to be a good game.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? We want to be a good game first and foremost, a good Monkey Island game, but a good Monkey Island game doesn't mean that, it just panders to these are characters that you've met before, using the voice actors that you already know, and these are places that you've already been. I mean, it's too soon to say about any of that, but I really do wonder what the expectations are from a business point of view around this.
Like whether we're going to see sequels and merchandising and things like that.
Well, I don't know. What are they expecting? I mean, we know that Revenge didn't make much money. That was why it was so long until Curse. Then Curse only made a sequel was only made to Curse because of its success in Europe. These games have always been more popular in Europe than they are in America.
Yeah.
I'm sure this will probably be big in Germany and Italy and Spain and France, I think, because that's the traditional,
it's the market,
heartland of adventure game fans. But I do wonder what the expectation is from a business perspective. What money do they expect to make off this project?
Yeah, and what do they plan to do after that? Well, like as I say, I don't think they're going to win over any new people. You know what I mean? I don't think people are going to buy into this and say, "Oh, great, a new Monkey Island game by Ron Gilbert." Like that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm surprised they're not pushing. go and play Secret Special Edition and LeChuck's Revenge Special Edition to get yourself ready for Return to Monkey Island. You know, they haven't done anything new with Curse. There's been nothing about go and play Curse again.
Is there like a marketing team attached to this, or is it all just down to Ron and Dave talking to a few online
you'd
zines?
think that I would have thought that Devolver then would be in charge of marketing.
Yeah,
I assume Lucasfilm just said to Devolver, "You're going to publish it, or distribute it, do whatever." But at the moment, there's just nothing. There's been this one teaser, and then nothing else.
I assume that means that it's 4 or 5 months off release. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be.
You know, have we heard from any testers or anything? No.
Only the old LucasArts crew who were involved, as far as I know.
Gary Winnick, people like that.
Dave Fox, Noah Falstein, people who were involved that.
See, you're bringing up these names, but only people like you and I.
I
know who they are.
Who any of them are.
But yeah, these aren't like Gabe Newell's type, kind of video
these
game
aren't big
celebrities.
Names in the video game industry, and I really do. I think you're right. I think if they must be expecting to start their marketing push later, and because I was thinking with Devolver, they have to be aiming surely to push this in the indie game market, even to non-Monkey Island fans. But because your typical video game player, like you say, people I know as well who play lots of AAA video games. What's the latest thing available on Xbox Game Pass for my subscription?
Yeah,
don't care about Return to Monkey Island.
No.
So they have to be. There has to be. They wouldn't. Maybe they are. Maybe they literally are just like, we'll just make this game and sell it to whoever buys it, and then that's it.
That's great.
We've seen.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with it as well. I just find it weird but maybe I'm wrong to expect after all the kind of decisions that I've seen being made with so many franchises and stuff over the last few years to expect that there's some kind of master plan.
Yeah. Well, I guess
even from a business perspective,
if we look at Disney and there was no master plan with the Star Wars sequels. It was just
and a lot of their market research
out.
doesn't seem to have doesn't seem to have availed them of a great deal. So,
yeah, exactly.
When it came to merchandising and stuff. So, I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see if this just shows up one day or if there is a gradual build up with more trailers and more exposure, especially again, as I say, in the indie space among indie gamers.
And the kind of GOG space as well, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. Like GOG, you get, in maybe indie gamers on or indie game websites, indie game YouTube channels, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I can't see where they're going to find an audience outside of that.
I have this feeling it's just going to drop with it's going to be this big surprise. It's like, yeah, you wanted it? Well, here it is, Just without it'll just come out of the blue. Yeah,
which is fine if that's what happens.
Yeah, and kind of that'll be the marketing in itself.
I don't get if Lucasfilm gave Ron Gilbert tens of thousands of dollars to do this, and he said they gave him more money than he raised to make Thimbleweed Park, right?
Yeah, but that wasn't that much money.
Well, no, I know, but it wasn't a tiny amount of money either.
No. I don't know. Well, speaking of Ron, moving right along, let's talk about something else. He talked about how he replayed Curse, and I think this kind of leads into what we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
So Ron Gilbert wasn't involved in the Curse of Monkey Island, but has said that he's replayed it before developing this game. I don't think he's mentioned the other two games, has he?
No, he said he just replayed Secret, Revenge, and Curse.
Okay, so maybe he kind of sees that as the core trilogy that he's building off. So here's the thing. People are talking about continuity in the game. One of the things you mentioned was Stan. So people are saying, how can Stan be in the game? He's meant to be locked in a coffin if this is a sequel to LeChuck's Revenge.
Yeah.
And you and I were discussing the fact that these people possibly just don't get it.
Yeah, people seem to seem to be hung up on this idea that this is going, and we talked about this a bit earlier in another episode, this is going to slot in between Revenge and Curse. It's like it's going to somehow fit in between this gap between these two games, and I just find myself thinking, don't be so narrow in your perception of how a story can be told.
Exactly. It can weave around everything. It can have nothing to do with it. It can have everything to do with it.
Yeah, and I mean, people have been saying, what if it starts at the carnival and then there's a time jump to after Tales kind of thing? Yeah, sure, I guess that could work, potentially.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be that way. And it seems like Ron and Dave have been saying in these interviews, it's amorphous. There's not a rigid sense of continuity between, or canonicity between these games. And yeah, it's funny that it's the same with anything, right? But that Monkey Island, a game series which has so little continuity between games, attracts this desire for rigid linkages in narrative from parts of its audience. And I guess it's the same with any kind of cult kind of media.
I was going to say, this is a symptom of any kind of fan or type of fan of any kind of media. Whether it be Doctor Who or Star Wars or anything like that. Everything needs to fit in
Doctor
this.
Who's, very good example of one where the old series had so little rigid continuity
because it wasn't
and
about
it didn't always contradict itself, but it certainly didn't bother to make hard connections between an episode from 5 years ago that many people watching would never have seen, or maybe never have even heard of.
That's right.
Especially in the days before home video and stuff. But that's still true, I think, with games like this, where surely there's some expectation. It kind of comes back to what we're saying, that not everyone who plays this will have played some or any of the preceding games in the series.
Exactly, especially as they're so old, and people won't go back and play them. And I think Doctor Who is a good comparison to draw from, where that show was a vehicle to tell stories. Science fiction stories of wavering quality. And that can be what this Monkey Island game is. This can just be another of Guybrush's adventures. It can be a way of telling a whole new story with a whole new character. With a whole new take on the character. I mean, we don't have to box this into fitting between LeChuck's Revenge and Curse. It doesn't necessarily have to finish with LeChuck's Revenge and diverge off into a separate continuity. Think of something like Superman Returns. That was a movie. It was kind of like, this is a sequel to Superman 2. The events of Superman 2 are not referenced in Superman Returns. It's just... Why are you smirking audibly?
It's more just that they said 3 and 4 don't count because people didn't like them. Or at least the popular wisdom was that people didn't like them, so we're going to say it's...
That's the popular wisdom here as well, I believe. That people don't like Escape. Therefore... It doesn't really matter. It doesn't count. So,
yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't think, going back to the kind of Doctor Who analogy, we get this thing where the kind of expanded universe Doctor Who novels and things are inserted in between stories. To
an almost laborious degree.
Exactly.
Where the Doctor had 500 adventures in a radio drama for every two adventures
Yeah,
he had
yeah.
on screen.
Yeah. So the Sixth Doctor left this planet, and then these 500 things happened, and then he got to this
And then he
next
got to
episode of the
Yeah.
TV series. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that Monkey Island is necessarily like that, but the point is it's about telling a story rather than fitting into an overall plot that was never planned out in the first place and doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to what's the point of storytelling in general, right? And
Yeah.
when you tell a story, it's like, again, Dave Grossman talked about this. Are you beholden to what came before? Well, not necessarily, not if that doesn't serve the purpose of telling a good story. And I think you see people getting really hung up, like people who, and I'm going to be blunt, have a rather immature view of the potential of what stories can do.
Yeah.
Go, oh, this needs to fit in here, and if you contradict it, you're ruining it, or I can't believe the story or something. Like, have you ever read a novel that didn't have sequels, or prequels or whatever?
Exactly.
Have you ever read something that wasn't a 10-volume fantasy doorstopper epic?
Yeah. Not everything has to be the Wheel
It's
of Time, right?
Not everything has to all be connected, be some massive saga with really, really hard connections. There's not going to be some big revelation in Return to Monkey Island about some obscure plot point from LeChuck's Revenge, a game that came out 31 years ago.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous to think that, but I think that's what some people honestly believe.
I hope we're not going to eat these words. That's the only problem.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's obviously this all comes with that caveat that maybe we're completely wrong.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to be wrong.
Yeah. Is this actually going to tie right into LeChuck's Revenge? Effectively be Monkey Island 3 with Murray in it. I think Murray is the thing that I think is going to be the only thing that's carried over from the extended continuity of these games. So I think the thing's going to be Murray's going to turn up at one point. Guybrush is going to know Murray. He's going to say, "Hey, Murray, I remember you," and that's going to be it.
Yeah. I was thinking about this today. Murray, of course. I do think it's on a sort of meta level, referring to what we talked about last time. Gavin Hammond voicing Stan. That's a Tales thing. We're getting this sort of hybrid Monkey Island now, where we've got Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman's sort of vision of what they imagine the series being, but it's Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman 30 years on. We've got characters invented by Jonathan Ackley and Larry Ahern. We've got actors who were cast by people years down the track in Tales.
Yep.
Not even the people who were cast in Curse, necessarily. So we're not seeing... This isn't some pure uncut Monkey Island from a time capsule. This is something that's like a coming together of different eras of Monkey Island. It feels like feels like we're getting a follow up to Secret and Revenge with a bit of Curse, and there's gonna be a bit of Tales DNA in there.
Yeah, that's right.
There's
very well put.
The performance of Stan is going to be influenced by the way Tales was written and performed. Yeah, that's inevitable. So we're not getting, this imaginary version of Monkey Island 3 that would never have existed, but we're also not getting some pure kind of if Curse was made by Ron Gilbert kind of thing as well.
Here's the thing with that. It's kind of held in everyone's hearts that these Curse performances of voices and things are the definitive voices. Yeah. So Alexandra Boyd as Elaine, Pat Pinney as Stan, I think people would expect, because those were the voices that Earl Bowen as LeChuck. They all went back and recorded the voices for 1 and 2 for Secret and Revenge.
Yeah. Yeah, which kind of canonized them in a sense. And again, it comes back to Curse being the popular one. But
Yeah, the popular one, or is it indicative of the quality of Curse? Or is it popular because of the quality?
I think it was popular because of its quality. But
Yeah.
yeah, there was a poll run on the Monkey Island subreddit where Curse came out on top as the majority of people's favourite Monkey Island game, followed by Revenge.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is, yeah, Curse, it was a big game.
Yeah, but we're not. That's the thing again. We're not getting like pure Curse
No.
continuity or pure kind of Curse follow up here as well, like they did more or less with special editions. Because we've seen changes of voice actor.
Yeah.
We're going to see influence from those other games. You can even see it, I think, visually from the little that we've seen.
Yeah.
You're seeing that post. All these different inspirations are going to be fed in here.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if people even kind of remember Secret. You know, it's kind of
how many people like you and I and played it when it was new.
When it was fresh.
Probably not that many who were at least kind of part of the conversation that we're sort of listening in on at the moment.
Yeah, well, probably not that many people that care now. You know, people may have played it when they were 6. But are those people necessarily as diehard as you and I and have been playing it for 30 years? You know, I doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the real question about continuity itself and about the need to make sequels.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about this, and you know, we already talked about how much all of these games have contradicted each other as well.
Yeah.
How much Curse retcon stuff from Revenge. Revenge is relatively consistent with Secret, but you can argue that there's some stuff that's a bit weird, like there's no indication that Guybrush and LeChuck already knew each other in Secret.
No.
And then, Escape, the Herman Toothrot thing, Ozymandias,
Yeah.
etc., contradicts Escape and, Curse and Revenge.
Yeah.
And then Tales weirdly kind of goes back with the underworld stuff about LeChuck's backstory and kind of seems to go back to the idea that, oh no, LeChuck escaped from the underworld after he died, not that he went to Big Whoop and got transformed into a ghost, like Curse says. So LeChuck's backstory is kind of the thing that's best, particularly, and that's sort of related things like Ozymandias and Herman Toothrot / Captain Marley have been retconned in almost every game since Revenge in some way or other.
Also, Secret ended on with a finale. It didn't end on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the Battle of Yavin. You know, the story was over. This story was told. And they decided to go ahead with the sequel and then decided what to do with it. This is not planned out stuff. But the fact that Revenge ended on this cliffhanger means that it's so open to interpretation as to what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and I guess you could even argue that the ending of Revenge isn't really a cliffhanger. It's just ambiguous.
That's true.
It's because it's not a cliffhanger in the sense of it's leaving you wondering, I wonder what's going to happen next. It's leaving you wondering, I wonder what the hell's going on right now.
Yeah, what just happened.
Yeah, but it's not sort of setting up. It doesn't end with the expectation of something's going to happen and we just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So, I kind of think the only one that's had a kind of tease like that was the ending, if you remember this, of Tales.
I do remember, yes.
With Morgan.
Yeah.
Trying to
lady?
trade LeChuck's soul to the voodoo lady.
Yeah.
So that she can escape from the afterlife.
Yeah.
And I've even seen people go like, oh, I was hoping they were going to follow up on that. It's like, what? Of course not.
I think that's the thing. That'd be that'll be like, as I said, them making a sequel to Superman 4, right? It'd be like as if they're gonna do that. This thing's forgotten.
Well, yeah, I mean, they clearly just put that in on the off chance that LucasArts licensed them to make another few games, not because it was some crucial thing for the supposedly very important story of Monkey Island.
Yeah, the saga. The 3-point saga.
Yeah. See the thrilling continuation. And Ron even said, this isn't Monkey Island 3, it's not Monkey Island 6, it's Return to Monkey Island. It defies numbering. It's sort of outside it, it's beyond it. Yeah. I think this is going to be like, take everything you imagined about Monkey Island, what do you remember, what did you like, what did people connect with, and bringing it all into one mixing pot. And then you get, you get Ron Gilbert, you get Dave Grossman, you get Dom Armato, you get Murray, you get all these different inputs and this whole history, and swish it all together, and then this is what comes out at the end.
Yeah, I think that's right, and this is the game that they want to make.
Yeah, and the story connections are so unimportant.
Exactly.
Because the story's not about its hard connections to what comes before.
No,
it's about
telling a story in itself. And there are some great sequels that actually improve upon what came before. Sure.
But there's no rule that a sequel has to be some kind of elaboration on a previous thing. It's better when it does something new. That's what made Revenge so good. It was like, what if after Guybrush had this great victory in secret, he became completely full of himself and turned into an utter loser who was just out to try to capture his old glory. That's why that's clever.
That's the thing with Revenge. It works on its own. You could play Revenge and say, oh, this is a washed up kind of pathetic character. I don't know what happened before. Also, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But this is where the character is now, and this is the story that's playing out now.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not dependent on really kind of fiddly little details.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Secret. Yes, it takes inspiration from things that happened in Secret. Any good sequel would. But this, again, isn't even being billed as a secret. A follow-up, yes. Yeah. Ron Gilbert said it's not a sequel.
Yeah.
It's its own thing.
It's another game.
Yeah. And it's almost like it almost feels like a spiritual sequel to its own series, is the impression that I'm kind of getting.
Yeah.
It's like, take all the best stuff and make a new one.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be the continuation to a story that didn't have much hard continuity ever in the first place.
Exactly, absolutely. I can't stop making the comparison to Evil Dead 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Evil Dead, is an obvious example of where Sam Raimi changed the story.
Yeah.
When it would make the sequel better.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't tie into Evil Dead 1. It's just Evil Dead again, but different.
Yeah, I mean, Army of Darkness is...
It's the same.
He went, the ending of Evil Dead 2 doesn't really work for what the story I want to tell in Army of Darkness, so I'm just going to start Army of Darkness in a way that contradicts the ending of Evil Dead 2. And there's probably some stupid comic or something that explains why Ash went from being revered by those medieval dudes to being enslaved by them. But you don't need that. Yeah. You don't need any of that stuff to enjoy Army of Darkness.
It's always kind of one of those things, or like an old film where look at something like Charlie Chaplin, right? It's the same character. Yeah. It's Charlie Chaplin, but now he's in this ridiculous situation. Or Donald Duck. Yeah. Donald Duck is in this situation, and now Donald Duck is the same character, and this is how he would react to this situation.
Yeah, exactly. And the cartoon characters are a good example because
Yeah.
Monkey Island can be a very cartoonish series of games.
Exactly.
Another one I think of is old Sherlock Holmes movies.
Yeah.
You know, they made like 13 movies with Basil Rathbone and as Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Professor Moriarty's played by different people. He acts as if he's never met him before or whatever. All sorts of stuff happens, you know.
Yeah.
And they were cranking out multiple movies a year in some cases, but
That's
they
right.
didn't think like, oh, what happened in the last movie?
Yeah.
They're just like, we're just going to make another Sherlock Holmes movie.
That's right.
And even
because
those
it's about
the original stories,
the
they
story
didn't
that they're
care.
telling then and how.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, and you can like Sherlock Holmes, and you can like to see how he reacts to the events in that case compared to another case. But we don't need to know that, oh, it's 2 years later and he's had this love affair and these characters have
A
died.
good example, is like with even the Sherlock Holmes original stories. You know,
Yeah.
Professor Moriarty only appeared in one story, and then later on, Conan Doyle wrote The Valley of Fear that was also about Professor Moriarty, and people are like, oh, but how does that work if he'd never met Professor Moriarty before? It's because Conan Doyle thought it would make a better story.
Yeah, it's just a good
Professor
story.
Moriarty was involved in Valley of Fear. There doesn't have to be a connection.
Exactly.
They can contradict each other. It's okay. It reminds me of what, you know, people were saying about Star Trek, you know, and we never watched any of the new stuff.
No.
But people were saying, oh, how do you reconcile continuing the original Star Trek timeline with the stuff that happened in the J.J. Abrams movie?
Yeah.
And you know, and Red Letter Media, they're like, just ignore it. But
Exactly.
of course, I don't think that's what they did. But why not? Why couldn't you just go, no, we don't like that idea, we're just going to ignore it?
Well, that's what Star Trek did as a series. It didn't matter what happened
once
last week.
upon a time, they would change stuff and retcon things if they thought. And I guess you can say the same with Monkey Island about Curse, you know.
Yeah.
They made Big Whoop something less ambiguous because I guess they thought it made for a better story. Now, whether it actually did is up for debate, but that's what they thought at the time.
Well, I think Curse contains a decent story, or at least elements of a good story, and we'll get to discussing Curse further. But just there are so many examples of this kind of storytelling. I'm thinking Tintin, The Adventures of Tintin. These characters, there's a tiny bit of continuity, but it doesn't really matter. You can read them out of order. I would argue to an extent Indiana Jones. It doesn't. These things don't matter. So I think people need to apply this kind of thinking to this game. So, you know, this cartoon character thinking that this is just another story. This is another Guybrush Threepwood adventure.
Yeah, another Guybrush game.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Ron Gilbert says in the commentary for Monkey Island 2.
Yeah, Guybrush game.
It's just a typical Guybrush game or something like that.
Yeah.
It's...
And that's what we want, I think. And I think you're right talking about Curse in that way. Curse was another Guybrush game. While Escape and
in some
Tales were
respects,
trying too hard to be sequels.
Yeah. And Curse in some respects does have a weird relationship with the games that came before. We can go into that in more detail when we talk about
We will go
specific
into that.
parts of Curse.
But
But
the great way that
Curse does set...
Sorry, the Curse explained away what happened at the end of the second game. You know, it gave you that acknowledgement that, something happened and now it's over. Now Guybrush is going on the next adventure.
Yeah, and the opening of Curse is very clear. Oh, Guybrush loves Elaine, but LeChuck wants to marry Elaine. And LeChuck, you know, tried to get revenge.
Yep.
Again, slightly changes motivations or something a little bit arguably, but it tells you everything you need to know. Whereas, as you say, like Escape very much feels like this is a game that's a sequel to Curse.
Yeah.
and Tales feels like, it's like you will only get a sense of significance out of the things that happen in this if you've played the other games and have some kind of strong connection to the relationships between Guybrush, Elaine, LeChuck, and the Voodoo Lady.
Yeah.
For whatever strange reason, these, again, cartoon characters joke relationships were treated like something serious that we were meant to
this is where
treat with some kind of reverence.
It's like the original Bond series versus the Daniel Craig Bonds. So the Daniel Craig Bonds are this weird, loose series that all tie together in a way that's kind of
Even
dull.
though they kind of don't.
Even though they also kind of don't. They try to be standalone, but they don't work either way, in my opinion.
But they made it up as they went along and tried to explain it. But the old ones, almost none, apart from actors.
Yeah, Bond is another example. It's just, this is this character. There's no continuity.
There was never any like, oh my god, Goldfinger came back or something,
no.
you know, like, and one. They never have done anything like that.
Yeah.
Blofeld was in a bunch of consecutive ones, but
perhaps this is a bit of an old school kind of. This is not a fashionable.
For nerds. I think this comes back to the influences upon like Dave Grossman and probably Tim Schafer originally as well when they were writing the first two.
Yeah, and I think like you and I have done previous discussions around like nerd culture and the way people try to own things in this way, and people have these certain expectations and feel like that they deserve things as fans. And I think this is somewhat not a particularly fashionable way of thinking. Is this kind of these are the characters in a new story.
Yeah, I think it is old fashioned.
Yeah,
I think it comes from, again, it's like I could be wrong, but I think it comes from a time when people probably they read more widely. Yeah. They watched a wider variety of films and TV shows. They didn't all read or watch stuff in the same genre.
Yeah.
And they had a maybe not necessarily better, but perhaps broader experience of the kind of stories you could tell in a book or a film or perhaps a video game even.
Well,
I think when you read and watch nothing but really rigidly plotted, continuity-heavy stuff like superhero comics and movies, sci-fi TV shows and movies, fantasy novels, that kind of thing, you perhaps get a slightly narrow view of the importance of continuity and what a story can do.
Yeah, and this is a whole thing between the old fashioned and the new fashioned that we could definitely enter into a whole discussion about this stuff. I cite things like Bond or Superman, all that stuff that was made for general audiences, and then later embraced by this kind of pop culture subculture thing, and then that's now influenced this whole new wave of fiction that's just marketed towards those people.
Yeah, and I was thinking about, we talked about when we were discussing the ending of LeChuck's Revenge and the influences on that.
Yeah.
And Ron Gilbert said Monty Python the Holy Grail, Blazing Saddles, got a couple of comedy movies there, British comedy, American comedy.
Yeah.
And Dave Grossman said 3 Days of the Condor, which is a spy thriller.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a comedy movie, it's not a fantasy or science fiction or some kind of psychological horror or something. It was a film that inspired him because the ideas were similar to his idea of kind of you can't trust what's in front of your eyes, not because Monkey Island was a spy game or had spy characters or something. It was the ideas that were similar.
Yeah. That's it.
So and in that and if you read lots of books, you're not going to find a sequel to the latest hit piece of literature from the top 10, novelists of today. They're not. And there's a kind of reverse snobbery, I think, about these ideas that like, oh, well, that's only for pretentious people or something like that. Not caring about continuity or something makes you a snob or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, but no, the point is, what's the best story that they can tell?
Yeah.
What's the best kind of Monkey Island game we can get? One where these two very, very clever and inspired guys get to make a really good game that they want to make, or a game where a bunch of people go, ooh, what's happened before? What can we do? What can't we do? How many connections can we draw to random stuff that happened in 5 games that came out over the period of 19 years?
Well, that's the thing. The fact that this has been developed in secret, they seem to have just been handed the reins and said, do whatever you want. That's the impression I get. They're going to make what they want. These aren't the guys making Tales trying to tie everything in, to the fan.
And it really doesn't seem... I mean, it seems like Ron's doing stuff because he wants to make it, like he's excited to bring back Herman Toothrot or something like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be being expressed in the sense of, fans will remember Herman Toothrot or something.
That's right.
It's what stuff from the old games does he want to include? And in many respects, what I'm most excited to see is the stuff that's going to be new. Like I've said, I don't want Guybrush to go back to Monkey Island, and I really hope he doesn't, even though I kind of think he will.
I think he probably will. But I'm hoping for the new environments, the new plots,
new characters, new jokes, new puzzles.
Yeah, just a whole fresh set of everything, and how Guybrush interacts with all of those characters. The other thing to remember with Guybrush is that he is also the player, and the player decides on his actions. And I think that's the thing that gets a little lost, especially in the later games.
Yes, the Guybrush is us. He's not some really, again, rigidly defined identity.
Yeah.
He's whatever the writer of a specific Monkey Island game has wanted him to be.
Yeah, that's right. And also what the player decides to make him.
Yeah, so it's like in Secret, he's like a sort of this somewhat wide-eyed, but at the same time slightly cynical wannabe. In the second game is this kind of dropout loser with a real mean streak. In the third, he's much more kind of sweet and pleasant. And in the fourth, he's just a buffoon.
Yeah,
like
fourth and fifth.
And then then the fifth, he wavers between that being that and being like a sitcom character in one of the dramatic episodes, kind of thing.
Less said about that.
So he's never been one person.
No.
There's never been one Monkey Island. It's always been a group effort. It's always been something that's been created by multiple people, and a story that's been told by whoever was telling that story in the way that they wanted to tell it.
Yeah, and that's the art form of the computer game as well, is it's having you become that person. You're experiencing what it's like to become a pirate.
You're one of the people who creates the game.
That's right.
By the act of playing it.
You're practically one of the
You're a participant in the act of creation.
Yeah. So let's all remember that before we worry about how Stan can turn up because he should be locked in a coffin.
Yeah. And I mean, yes, maybe I'll eat my words if, as some people have suggested,
Possibly.
Stan will get out of the coffin and then end up back in the coffin by the end.
Oh, yeah.
I really don't want that to happen.
No.
I can't think of anything more boring
That would be really
than a
disappointing.
game that starts at the end of Revenge and then wraps up so that Curse can happen without any contradiction.
Yes. I have more faith than that.
Yeah, I don't for a second think that that's how it's actually going to go.
Yeah.
But I think that people think that it could, or maybe even want it to, is a bit of a shame.
I think it's
There's
inescapable.
a lot more out there. Yeah.
But there are also hopefully people who are just going to be looking to play a game and maybe discover the beauty of the Monkey Island series through this game.
Yeah.
This will be the new Curse.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? That's gonna be our discussion in the future. Return versus Curse.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And especially the release of Return versus Curse.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something we'll get to at a later discussion. But I think that's a nice little package about the continuity.
Yeah, it's always fun to make these comparisons to other time periods, other media, other ways of thinking outside of our slightly tedious Marvel Cinematic Universe era of pop culture storytelling in which we currently find ourselves. Who's the next actor we can drag out of the dumpster to reprise a role they played 50 years ago? You know,
Carter.
She's been doing it for a while, man.
I know. Well, that's the fun of this discourse.
Yeah.
All right, so stay open-minded.
Yeah. So we'll stay open-minded, and stay open to us talking about The Curse Gets Worse next time.
Next time the curse will indeed get worse.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you for listening to our latest ramblings on the anticipation of Return to Monkey Island, and for listening to Rubber Chicken with a podcast in the middle. I'm Alistair.
I'm Gordon.
And...
Look behind you! A three-headed monkey!